My name is Sarah. I'm 38 years old, and I need to tell you about the day I became the kind of mother I swore I'd never be. The kind who spies. The kind who doesn't trust. The kind who hides a recording device in her child's backpack and presses play when he's not looking. I did that. And what I heard destroyed two teachers' careers. But it also destroyed something else. Something I didn't know I was risking. Let me go back. My son's name is Ryan. He's 9 now, but this happened last year when he was 8. He's my only child. I had him young. I was 29. His father and I divorced when Ryan was 4. It wasn't messy. We just stopped working. He lives 2 hours away now, sees Ryan every other weekend. So most of the time, it's just me and Ryan in our small house near the edge of town. I work from home. I'm a graphic designer, freelance. It pays enough. And it means I'm here when Ryan gets home from school. I thought that was enough. I thought being present meant I'd always know if something was wrong. But somewhere around October of last year, Ryan changed. Not all at once. It was slow, like watching a light dim 1 degree at a time until you suddenly realize you're sitting in the dark. He started coming home and going straight to his room. He stopped talking at dinner. When I asked him how school was, he'd shrug and say, "Fine." When I asked if he wanted to play a game or watch a movie, he'd say he was tired. He was 8 years old. 8-year-olds aren't tired. At first, I thought maybe he was being bullied. I asked him directly. I said, "Ryan, is someone bothering you at school?" He looked at me with these big, serious eyes and said, "No, Mom." I asked if he was having trouble with his friends. He said, "I don't really have friends." That broke something in me. Because the year before, he'd had friends. He'd had birthday parties and play dates and kids who called the house asking if Ryan could come over. Now, nothing. I tried talking to his teacher. Her name was Mrs. Patterson. She'd been teaching 3rd grade for 12 years. She had good reviews. Parents liked her. I sent her an email. I said I was concerned about Ryan, that he seemed withdrawn, that I wondered if she'd noticed anything at school. She replied the next day. She said Ryan was doing fine academically, that he was quiet but polite, that she hadn't noticed anything unusual. She said, "Some children are just more introverted, Mrs. Chen. I wouldn't worry." But I did worry, because I knew my son, and this wasn't introversion. This was something else. Then one night in early November, I heard him crying. It was late, almost 11. I'd gone to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I was lying there in the dark, thinking about work deadlines and bills, and whether I needed to schedule Ryan's dentist appointment. And then I heard it, soft, muffled, coming from his room. I got up, I walked down the hallway, I stood outside his door, and I listened. He was trying to be quiet, trying not to let me hear. I knocked softly. "Ryan, honey, are you okay?" Silence. Then his voice, thick and small. "I'm fine, Mom. Can I come in?" "I'm fine. I just want to sleep." I stood there with my hand on the doorknob, and I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to open the door anyway, to go in and sit on his bed and hold him until he told me what was wrong. But another part of me, the part that remembered being a kid, the part that remembered wanting privacy and space, that part told me to respect his boundary. So I said, "Okay, I love you," and I went back to my room, and I lay there hating myself for not pushing harder. The next morning, he looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, moving slowly, barely touching his breakfast. I said, "Did you sleep okay?" He nodded. I said, "You can talk to me, you know, about anything." He looked at me for a long moment, and then he said, "I know, Mom," but he didn't say anything else. That day, I couldn't focus on work. I sat at my computer, staring at a logo design I was supposed to finish, and all I could think about was Ryan, about the way he'd looked at me that morning, about the sound of him crying in the dark, about the fact that something was hurting my child, and I didn't know what it was. Around noon, I did something I'm still not proud of. I Googled how to know if your child is being bullied. I read article after article, checklists, warning signs, advice from child psychologists, and then I saw an ad, a small voice recorder designed for lectures, meetings, interviews, voice-activated long battery life, tiny, discreet. The ad said, "Never miss an important moment." I stared at that ad for a long time. I told myself it was wrong. I told myself I couldn't do that to my son, that it was an invasion of his privacy, that it was the kind of thing that would destroy his trust if he ever found out. But then I thought about him crying. I thought about him saying he didn't have friends. I thought about the possibility that something terrible was happening to him at school, and I was just sitting at home doing nothing. I clicked the ad. I read the reviews, and then I bought it. 2-day shipping. It arrived on a Thursday. Small box, plain packaging. I opened it in my bedroom, with the door closed, like I was doing something illegal. The recorder was smaller than I expected, about the size of a USB drive. Black, inconspicuous. I charged it, I tested it, I set it to voice-activated mode, and then I sat there on my bed, holding this tiny piece of technology, and I asked myself if I was really going to do this. Friday morning, I made Ryan's breakfast like normal. I packed his lunch like normal. And while he was brushing his teeth, I went into his room and I opened his backpack. I buried the recorder at the bottom, under his notebooks and folders, wrapped in a sock so it wouldn't rattle. I turned it on. I zipped the bag, and I walked out of his room before I could change my mind. That day was the longest day of my life. I tried to work. I couldn't. I tried to distract myself with cleaning, with errands, with anything, but all I could think about was that recorder, sitting in Ryan's backpack, listening. He got home at 3:30. I was waiting in the kitchen, pretending to be casual. "Hi, honey. How was school?" "Fine. Anything interesting happen?" "No." He went to his room. I waited. I waited until I heard him in the bathroom. And then I went into his room and I took the recorder out of his backpack and I brought it to my bedroom. I closed the door. I sat on my bed and I pressed play. The first hour was mostly noise. The bus kids talking, background chatter, then the sound of the school hallway, lockers, footsteps, then a bell, then a woman's voice. "Good morning, class. Take your seats." That was Mistress Patterson. For the first 20 minutes, it seemed normal. She was teaching a math lesson, calling on students, giving instructions. Ryan's voice was quiet when she called on him, but he answered correctly. She didn't say anything positive. She just moved on to the next student. Then, around 9:45, something changed. A student asked to go to the bathroom. Mistress Patterson said, "You should have gone before class." The student sounded like a girl. Said, "I didn't have to go before." Mistress Patterson said, "That's not my problem. You can wait until recess." The girl didn't say anything else. About 10 minutes later, Ryan's voice, quiet, hesitant. "Mistress Patterson." "What is it, Ryan? Can I sharpen my pencil?" A pause, then her voice, colder. "You should have done that before class started."